Hi, everybody. Welcome back to English Podcast for Listening and Speaking. My name is Lisa, and I'm so glad you're here with me today, ready to share another moment of quiet learning and reflection. Our journey together here is always about exploring the beauty of the English language, but in a very specific way. We don't focus on rigid rules or fast-paced drills. Instead, we aim to make learning English feel as natural and comforting as simply listening to a friend share their thoughts or tell a gentle story. It's about finding that calm, slow pace where new words and ideas can truly settle into your mind, becoming a part of your own understanding, almost without you noticing. We believe that when you're relaxed, learning flows more easily. If this episode or any of our conversations helps you to feel a little more confident in your English, to understand something new about its rhythm and flow, or simply brings a moment of quiet focus and enjoyment into your day, I'd be so incredibly grateful if you considered liking this episode. It really helps us know what resonates with you. And if you feel called to, subscribing to our channel or perhaps even leaving a kind comment truly helps us reach and support more learners just like you, building this gentle community together. Thank you so much for being here. Now, get comfortable, maybe pour some tea, and let's begin. Take a deep breath with me. Just letting your shoulders relax, letting your mind settle. We're just going to spend some quiet time together, reflecting on something that touches all of our lives in different ways. The idea of safety, and sometimes the lengths we go to feel truly secure. I've been thinking a lot lately about how we navigate the world, and about the invisible lines we draw around ourselves, around our homes, to feel protected. It makes me think of a friend I have. Let's call him Mark. Mark is one of the kindest people I know, truly, with a gentle spirit. But he also lives with a constant hum of worry, a deep-seated caution that shapes almost every aspect of his daily life. When I visit him, it's always an experience that makes me reflect on the phrase, "You can never be too safe." The moment you approach Mark's front door, you notice it. There isn't just one lock, but 3, sometimes 4, each one sturdy, shining, and very visibly secured. And the peephole isn't just a tiny dot, it's a wide-angle lens, allowing him to see much more than just who's standing directly in front. Before he even opens the door, you can hear the distinct clicks and turns of each lock, a little symphony of security. When he does open it, he peers out slowly, making sure he recognizes you. Even if you've been coming to his house for years, it's not that he doesn't trust you, it's that he doesn't trust what might be lurking behind you or around the corner, just out of his immediate sight. Once inside, his home feels like a carefully constructed sanctuary. The curtains are almost always drawn, even on the brightest of days. Not just to block out the sun, he explains, but to block out eyes. He worries about people looking in, about anyone trying to observe his routine. He'll tell you, in a quiet, serious voice, about what he calls sickos, people who might try to hurt others or just watch them for reasons he can't fathom. He even has a special film on his windows, designed to prevent anyone from seeing inside clearly, while still letting a bit of light filter through. It gives the rooms a soft, almost hushed glow, a feeling of being completely enclosed and safe from the outside world. He's very careful about phone calls, too. If a number he doesn't recognize calls, he'll never answer. He's convinced it's often a telemarketer trying to trick him into buying something he doesn't need, or worse, someone trying to get personal information from him. And don't even think about a solicitor knocking on his door unannounced. He simply won't engage. He sees them not just as salespeople, but as potential intruders, people who might be casing the place, as he puts it, looking for weaknesses. He believes deeply that any interaction with an unknown person, even a seemingly innocent one, could be a doorway to danger. Mark is also incredibly wary of surveillance. He often talks about how cameras are everywhere now, on streets, in public buildings, even in people's phones. He worries about his own phone, covering its camera with a tiny sticker when he's not using it, just in case. He's careful about what he says, even in his own home, often lowering his voice, half joking, "You never know who might be listening." This hyper-awareness extends to anything that might compromise his privacy or security. He checks under his car. He looks at reflections in windows to see who might be behind him. And he has a whole routine for checking his home perimeter before bed, just to be sure there's no peeping Tom trying to get a glimpse of his private life. His caution is so ingrained that it's almost a part of him. He's not frantic or panicked, usually. Instead, it's a quiet, persistent vigilance. He truly believes, with every fiber of his being, that you can never be too safe. And it's hard to argue with the sentiment on a surface level, isn't it? We all want to be safe. We all take precautions. But with Mark, it's a constant, all-encompassing way of life. Now, it's important to understand that when we talk about this kind of extreme caution, this intense worry about being watched or harmed, sometimes people use the word paranoia. In everyday conversation, we might say, "Oh, I'm being paranoid about that noise," meaning we're just being overly worried or suspicious for a moment. But there's also a clinical definition of paranoia, which is a serious mental health condition. For instance, in the movie A Beautiful Mind, we see a character, John Nash, who experiences deep, persistent delusions of being followed and targeted, which is a symptom of schizophrenia. That's a very different thing from just being overly cautious or feeling a bit suspicious sometimes. What we're exploring here with Mark's story is more about the everyday anxieties and the concept of paranoia in a casual sense. The feeling of being excessively guarded, the deep-seated fear that others might have ill intentions, or that the world is more dangerous than it appears. It's about how that fear can shape our actions, our routines, and even our relationships. We're not here to diagnose anyone, of course, but to understand the language we use to describe these feelings and behaviors. Mark's carefulness, while sometimes extreme, comes from a place of wanting to protect himself from perceived threats, from the unknown. He lives his life on a need-to-know basis, meaning he shares information only when absolutely necessary, believing that the less people know, the safer he is. He's always alert, always looking, almost as if he's expecting to catch someone red-handed, caught in the act of doing something wrong, of trying to intrude. It's a heavy way to live, always on guard. This perspective, this constant vigilance, brings us to some very interesting words and phrases in English that help us describe such feelings and behaviors. It's a chance for us to understand not just the words themselves, but the depth of human experience they represent. So let's gently explore some of these words and phrases that help us understand Mark's world, and perhaps even our own, when we feel that heightened sense of caution. First, you heard me mention how Mark worries about what he calls sickos. This word, sicko, is a slang term often used to describe someone who is mentally or emotionally disturbed in a way that feels creepy or potentially dangerous. It's a strong word, reflecting a deep-seated fear of people with bad intentions. It's how Mark thinks of those he needs to protect himself from, the ones who might watch or harm. Can you say that with me? Slowly? Sicko. One more time. Sicko. Then there's his carefulness with the phone. He avoids answering unknown numbers, convinced they might be a telemarketer. A telemarketer is simply someone who tries to sell you things over the phone. They might call about anything from a new internet plan to a donation for a charity. For Mark, they represent an unwanted intrusion into his private space, a voice that could potentially lead to something more sinister. Let's try saying telemarketer, telemarketer, and again, just gently, telemarketer. Next, you heard how Mark wouldn't engage with a solicitor at his door. A solicitor is a person who tries to sell something door to door, or perhaps ask for donations without an appointment. They just show up. Mark sees them as more than just salespeople. He sees them as potential threats, people who might be studying his home, looking for a way in. Let's practice this word, solicitor. One more time, thoughtfully. Solicitor, and that careful check of his home perimeter before bed to make sure there's no peeping Tom. A peeping Tom is a person who secretly watches others, often in private settings, like through windows. It's a deeply unsettling thought for anyone, the idea that your privacy could be violated in such a way. For Mark, it's a constant, quiet concern. Can you say peeping Tom with me? Peeping Tom. And again. Peeping Tom. Now, let's turn to some very common phrases that came up in Mark's story. The first one encapsulates his entire philosophy. You can never be too safe. This phrase expresses an extreme level of caution, suggesting that no matter how many safety measures you take, it's still not enough. It means you should always be on guard and take every possible precaution. It's a strong belief that the more careful you are, the better, because danger could be anywhere. Let's try saying this whole phrase slowly. You can never be too safe. Once more. You can never be too safe. Then there's his idea of living on a need-to-know basis. This phrase is used when you limit information sharing to only what is absolutely necessary. It means you only tell people what they need to know and nothing more, often because you believe that sharing too much information could put you at risk. For Mark, keeping information to himself is another layer of protection. Let's try saying this phrase, on a need-to-know basis. Again, on a need-to-know basis. And finally, Mark is always alert, almost as if he's expecting to catch someone red-handed. This wonderful phrase means to catch someone in the act of doing something wrong. Imagine someone caught with their hands literally red from some forbidden act, like stealing berries from a bush. It means they are caught right in the middle of their wrongdoing, with undeniable evidence. Mark is always looking for that evidence, for that moment of exposure. Let's try caught red-handed. caught red-handed. And once more, letting the word sit, caught red-handed. These words and phrases help us paint a picture of Mark's deeply cautious world, and they're incredibly useful in everyday English to describe situations where privacy, security, and suspicion are at play. They allow us to speak about those feelings of vigilance and the desire to protect ourselves and our space. We've talked about the words and phrases that describe Mark's world, his cautious thoughts, and his daily actions. Now, let's gently turn our attention to how we speak about what we will do or what we will be doing, especially when we're thinking about safety and what might happen next. Sometimes, when we are very careful, we predict our actions or the actions of others in the future. For this, we often use what we call the future simple tense. It's simply saying what will happen. For example, Mark, with his careful habits, might think, "I will double-check all the locks tonight before I go to bed." He's making a promise to himself, a plan for the future. It's a very direct way to say what he intends to do for his safety. Or perhaps someone else might say, "If I hear a strange noise outside, I will turn on the porch light." It's a simple action, a planned response to a potential situation. This tense helps us express our immediate plans or expectations about what is to come. Now, let's think about actions that will be in progress at a certain time in the future. This is where the future continuous tense comes in handy. It helps us describe something that will be happening over a period or at a specific moment in the future. Imagine Mark again, late at night. He might be thinking, "At midnight, I will be watching the street from my window, just making sure everything is calm." He won't just watch for a second. He'll be in the middle of the action of watching. It's an ongoing process. Or, if we think about general safety, perhaps you might consider, "When the sun goes down tonight, many people will be locking their doors and windows, settling in for the evening." It describes an action that will be actively happening at that future time. These tenses allow us to talk about our preparations, our anticipations, and the actions that will unfold. Whether we are talking about being careful, being vigilant, or just planning our day, they help us voice those thoughts about what comes next, especially when we are thinking, like Mark, that we can never be too safe. Now, it's time to practice. This is where we bring all these pieces together, the words, the phrases, and the way we talk about the future. I'll say some sentences, and I invite you to repeat them after me, slowly, just like a gentle echo. Then, I'll offer you a soft question, a chance for you to use these ideas in your own thoughts, or even out loud. Let's begin. After hearing about the missing package, Mark thought, "I will install a new security camera because you can never be too safe." Please repeat after me. "I will install a new security camera because you can never be too safe." Can you think of a situation where you might say, "You can never be too safe"? Next, imagine this. If that peeping Tom tries to sneak around again tonight, he will be caught red-handed by my new motion sensor lights. Now, try this one. He will be caught red-handed by my new motion sensor lights. Have you ever heard of someone being caught red-handed? What were they doing? Let's try another one. When the telemarketer calls next time, Mark said, "I will tell them that information is on a need-to-know basis, and they don't need to know anything about me." Repeat slowly. I will tell them that information is on a need-to-know basis. In your daily life, is there anything you keep on a need-to-know basis? Moving on. I will tell any solicitor who knocks on my door that I'm not interested, as you can never be too safe with strangers. Let's try this. I will tell any solicitor who knocks on my door that I'm not interested. How do you usually respond if a solicitor comes to your door? And finally, if I see that sicko lurking near the park again tomorrow, I will be calling the police immediately. And finally, repeat. If I see that sicko lurking near the park again tomorrow, I will be calling the police immediately. What will you be doing this evening to feel safe and relaxed? Remember, you can also practice by writing these sentences down in a journal or by softly speaking your answers to yourself. The more you use these words and phrases, the more comfortable they will become. As we gently bring our time together to a close today, I invite you to take a deep breath with me. Remember how we started, settling in, maybe with a warm cup of tea, ready to explore something that touches many of us? The feeling of needing to be safe. We delved into a world where sometimes it feels like you can never be too safe. It's a phrase, you can never be too safe, that holds a lot of truth in certain moments. But as we've seen, it also invites us to reflect on where that line is between healthy caution and something more. The journey of understanding new words and ideas, like sicko or being caught red-handed, helps us talk about these complex feelings and situations with more clarity. Thank you so much for joining me today, for listening, for practicing, and for being open to these reflections. If this episode helped you feel a little more confident in your English today, or simply offered a moment of calm learning, I would be so grateful if you shared it with someone else who is also learning. Until next time, please take good care of yourself and always, always keep learning.